My name is Nick, the EMF guy Pinot, and this is the 2024 EMF Hazard Summit. In this presentation, R Blank will teach you how to shop for EMF blocking products and avoid wasting your time and money on bogus solutions. You'll learn what products actually work to help you minimize your EMF exposure and reduce the very real health risks associated with your everyday gadgets. You'll also learn how to properly use these products and avoid the common mistakes that most people make when using EMF blocking cases, blankets, and many other types of products. R Blank is the CEO of Shield Your Body and an internationally followed expert on issues of EMF, health, and safety. He co-authored the great book Overpowered along with his late father and influential EMF scientist, Dr. Martin Blank. He also hosts the Healthier Tech podcast. Let's dive in. I'm here today with R Blank from Shield Your Body. R, how are you today?
Good, thank you. How are you? It's nice to see you again.
I'm great. Nice to see you again. We've done a few interviews like these, but for the 2024 EMF Hazard Summit, this is the first interview I actually do. So you're the first guest, but I wanted to dive into EMF blocking products. You are an expert when it comes to EMF science. I think that this is a fairly, this is a fair statement because you co-authored this book with your late father, Dr. Martin Blank, who was an expert in biophysics, regarded as one of the most prestigious EMF scientists of his time, at least one of them. And so you know the EMF science, and also you probably realize, like me, that many EMF scientists are very frisky towards EMF blocking products. They don't recommend them. And so why do you think that even with all the studies around the dangers of EMFs and the fact people want to protect themselves, a lot of EMF scientists are a little bit hesitant toward the EMF blocking product category?
Yeah, well, so great question. I like that that's where we're starting. I want to just limit a little bit the notion of me as an expert on the science. I am more of an expert at communicating the science. So I try to stay on top of, to learn as much as I can and to stay on top of it and to follow the news and then figure out how best to communicate that to average or normal consumers.
Gotcha.
Now, to answer your question, there's a few ways. We could actually probably spend the whole half hour on this.
Sure.
But so one thing is that a lot of the scientists believe that the real solution is to eliminate as much of these forces as possible, not to shield against them. Now, I agree that eliminating the source is the best option when it comes to reducing your exposure. So eliminating the source is better than protecting against the source. But of course, we live in this world where you can't eliminate all of it. In fact, there's a lot of it that you can't eliminate. Now, another thread to kind of pull on there is I have noticed that a lot of people who really are experts, both on the scientist side and the building biology side, this isn't universal, this isn't everyone, but a lot of them are uncomfortable trying to figure out which products actually work. Now, they feel like that's not their wheelhouse, right? Because when it comes to EMF in general, no one's an expert on everything, right? I mean, because it encompasses physics, engineering, biology, chemistry, construction, a lot of technical specification. Like no one is an expert on all of EMF. And so when people become experts on something, that doesn't mean they're an expert on everything. And then third is there's a lot of snake oil out there. And in terms of things that are being sold as protection against EMF. And it is, I think it's just people want to kind of stay away from it in general. And of course, scientists want to maintain, and I feel like this is more true in the EMF space than perhaps in general, but scientists want to maintain a distance from money. And anything that's a commercial enterprise can, by its very nature, be seen as diminishing the validity or integrity of the scientist or the science that scientist creates.
That makes sense. And I think maybe a fourth one is this knowledge and this reality that certain EMF blocking products might make the problem worse. Yeah. Can you talk about that? Yeah, and there's been one study, I think we're talking about an increase of 10,000 fold in radiation in one study. I hope I can find a study and put an insert on the screen on an EMF blocking case that was blocking the antenna. Can you talk about how is it possible that a product could increase our exposure? For example, a product that is badly designed, of course.
Yeah, and it's not only, and I like this question too. You came with your A game today. It's not even that the product is maybe badly designed. It's that it's not being used the way it was intended to be used. Both of these things can have these negative outcomes. And so I'll give you an example right here. Here's a phone. And let's imagine I have a product. I actually have a product like this, but I don't have it at my desk. That it's designed to be put in between your phone and your body. So when you're carrying your phone, it deflects radiation away from your body. Now, if you put that shield on the other side of the phone, so that the phone is in between the shield and your body, it's actually going to be deflecting more radiation towards you instead of radiation away from you. And so that's an example of not using the product the way it was designed to be used. And the thing is, with a lot of EMF protection, you have to constantly be conscious of that and make sure you're using it the right way. Certain other products aren't that way. I mean, if you're using an EMF hat, there's only one way to use it. But there's a lot of these products where you can use them the wrong way. The same now with phone cases, right? When you flip the phone case open, that means all of the shielding is on the back. So if you hold it up to your head, you're getting more radiation exposure than if you didn't have any shielding on it at all. Now, I don't know the study that you're talking about, but you mentioned that it impacts antenna. And so a lot of these modern devices, not all of them, but a lot of them, especially phones, are designed to compensate for interference, right? So that means if there's a bad signal, they will emit more radiation in order to establish that signal and maintain the connection. And that means if the shielding is actually interfering with your phone's reception, your phone will start emitting more radiation. And that's where instances like you're talking about can happen. I think this can happen with any type of EMF shielding. I think it's particularly important, especially for the electrosensitive, to understand that this also applies to whole home shielding, right? Let's say you wanted to shield your bedroom against maybe neighbor Wi-Fi, or there's a cell tower really close and you want to shield. Once you start playing with that scale of a protection, that's when you really need to be working with an expert, because that can have a lot of unintended consequences when you start shielding, for instance, whole walls or whole rooms, and signals start bouncing and interacting in ways that you won't know unless you're working with an expert. Yeah,
that's a very, very important point. So if I understand you correctly, sometimes it's design, sometimes it's user error. Maybe we can get into some particular products. We talked about cases. Is there a difference between, I see phone cases that have this flap, I see phone cases that just have one side shielded, then I see Faraday pouches. There's a lot of different products. Are there particular use cases where you want to use one product over another? And how can we best use a phone case?
Sure. So Faraday pouches, I'll start there. That's, I think, the easiest. Those are fully shielded pouches. So they're designed to silence your phone. Now, when you do that, that's when your phone starts emitting more radiation. And then that starts causing heating, and it also rapidly burns down the battery. So I always recommend that people not use a Faraday pouch, but instead just put their phone into airplane mode, because that'll achieve the same thing without any of the negative side effects. So putting your phone into airplane mode, by the way, is, like we were saying at the very beginning, cutting off the source is the best option. Yeah. So, but I definitely recommend that in general, but also instead of using a Faraday pouch. Now, when it comes to cases, I make pouches. I intentionally don't make cases. And this is actually a pretty big market segment that I've intentionally avoided getting into, because I feel that they are so easy for consumers to misuse, right? So when we're talking about, for instance, my phone pouch, it has a belt hoop. You know which side is front, which side is back. As long as that you're carrying it the way it's designed to be carried, and it's very hard not to, it's working for you. But when you're talking about a case, whether it's single-sided shielding or double-sided shielding, regardless, if you hold it up to your head to talk on your phone, and again, don't do that. I never do that, but people, that's how phones are designed to be used. So people do it. You're increasing your exposure that way. If you put it into your pocket the wrong way, which is very easy to do with a phone case, as opposed to a pouch with a belt hoop, if you put it in the wrong way, you're increasing your exposure. I've started seeing more and more of these where the back is shielded, but there's a hole for the camera. Once you start putting holes in the shielding, the efficacy is reduced significantly. Not just a little. You might think, oh, the camera's only 5% of the area of the phone. So it'll be a 5% reduction in effectiveness. But that's not the case. Once you've put a hole in the shielding, you are really negating the effectiveness or potential effectiveness of the shielding. So phone cases are just a big problem, in my opinion, in terms of how they're designed and how they're used. But it is very easy to misuse them, which is why I don't advocate for phone cases.
Okay, so phone cases you would define as something that has
that goes on your phone.
Like right. Okay. In a pouch, you would just insert and you have one side shielded. I understand. So it's true that, user error is so common. So I think that some people who purchase an EMF blocking product want to kind of protect their phone and don't think about it. So if you have that phone case that can easily be misused, you kind of have to think about it all the time.
Yes.
And then I do see, and I don't like that part. I do see a lot of companies that create EMF blocking products, and that's not Shield Your Body, but other companies that also put images of consumers using a phone case and then using a phone to the head. I know that's something you're not fond of. I'm not either. Just out of, I think, the precautionary principle here, especially protecting the head. We know that maybe the deadliest way you can use a phone is to put it to your head. If you're very, very unlucky, you might increase your chances of developing a brain tumor later. So just a small note, even if you're using a phone case or anything on your phone, I don't advocate at any point putting that phone to your head. I think you agree with that, right?
Oh, totally. Completely.
Yeah.
I never do that.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll talk on speakerphone in a crowded airplane terminal instead. Like if I get a call and my headset isn't in and I'm rushing, and I still just talk on speakerphone and say, hey, I got to call you back when I'm somewhere else or something like that, rather than putting it up to my head.
Me too. And I for those people that are unfortunately more on the sensitive side, I have a quick anecdote. At one point, I was in Eastern Europe with my wife, and I was in the in a Starbucks. So that's a bad spot for if you're slightly sensitive to very sensitive. So you have a lot of Wi-Fi, industrial strength routers, and whatnot. But I decided to take the phone call because Jan called me and very rarely calls me. So I thought, okay, maybe this is an emergency, and I put it to my head. I never do that, and I put it to my head. It was several years before writing my book, so I wasn't very, very aware of the dangers. And I remember getting buzzed, feeling almost drunk for up to an hour after a short call. We're talking about a few seconds, and it's really, really messed with my head. So pay attention. If you are still using your phone to your head, pay attention. Is your concentration as good afterwards, or are you having maybe headache or even tinnitus? Some people do not pinpoint these things to their symptoms, and when they write to me through the EMF Guy newsletter and whatnot, sometimes they say, oh my God, Nick, yeah, these headaches in fact are triggered a few hours after I have a phone call every day. And if you don't know that there could be a link, well, you don't put two and two together. So that's also the kind of things that functional medicine doctors or environmental medicine doctors do in their questionnaires nowadays. So pay attention of when you use your phone and how you feel. Sometimes there might be a quick correlation there, and it just tells you that stop doing that and you use it in a different way. I want to move to another product that I think is key in protection, and that's protection for pregnant women. I heard several scientists just this last week, again, stressing the importance that we might have EMF safety standards, and they might be extremely high and permissive. So that's concerning for adults. That's even more concerning for electrosensitives. But all of them also agree that that's even more concerning for unborn fetuses because of the potential effects very, very early in life when they're just a few cells wide, basically like this tiny grain of sand that is growing. And a lot of people resort to belly bands or blankets. How should we think about these products, and how can we avoid user error when using them?
Well, fortunately, with a belly band, unless there's use cases I'm just not imagining, that is hard to misuse, right? As long as the belly band is fully shielded. I think most of them these days are, but I remember when I got into this industry, there were belly bands where only the front was shielded. Okay. And that means radiation coming from the back is actually deflected back, basically twice. So belly bands are difficult to misuse. Get them from a reputable company. SYB doesn't make them. I'm not in the habit of either praising or detracting specific companies, so I won't recommend any. But there are some good ones out there, and just make sure that you can that they've had the product tested and they stand by their claims. Now with blankets, that's a little bit harder because it is possible to only, for the same reason I was saying, where a belly band, the old ones, some of them were only shielding on the front and not on the back. You can use a blanket that way, right? So you drape the blanket over you, but it isn't fully wrapping you. And that means if there's significant sources of EMF from behind you, you're actually amplifying those exposures. So that would be either you fully wrap yourself in it, or you're really trying to protect against something that's right in front of you. Like if people, and again, a lot of these use cases that I'm talking about here are things that you and I both know you should never do. But if you're, on your phone at night in bed and it's on your belly, or if you're using your laptop against your body, those are instances where there's big sources of radiation from right in front of you, and that could work in that instance. But that's why. I chose at Shield Your Body, for instance, to go for EMF canopies as opposed to EMF bedding, because a lot of people would just buy a blanket and then they have whatever's coming from beneath them, and you get into all these use case issues. Yeah,
and what about wrapping a baby in a blanket? I think this is partial a partial type of shielding. Does SYB produce blankets?
Yeah, you have one.
It's right. I've just been sorting out all my EMF blocking stuff.
No, it's been a few years since we talked about it, but yeah. And wrapping the baby is a use case that I believe is a good one because you're getting. I mean, you're in general you're going to leave part of their face exposed, but you're shielding so much of their body that you're going to get a lot of protection.
Okay, that's what I think, and especially in very high EMF environments, it's always tricky to use the product. And again, even on this summit, I know that some electrosensitives are more towards the idea that people should stop using a cell phone altogether. I agree with you, but a lot of people listening to this conversation, maybe they heard about EMF dangers on this very summit, like an hour ago. So it takes time. That's the reality. And there are several people who are vastly unaware, or maybe they're aware a little bit, but they're not practicing any of this. They're not reducing their usage. They're not using blocking products. For my wife, Jen, it took some time for me to, I had written my book. I had probably, almost bordered to death talking about EMF science and whatnot at the beginning because I was so excited writing my book. And yet it took some time for her to adjust to using a blanket, for example, if she was on her phone. But she understood. I think that pregnant moms have this very primal feeling about protecting their baby. It's inside there. It's small. You don't know what's happening. You just hope that it's growing normally. So it was an easy sell, but even then it took some time. And it is
changing
tricky.
Habits. Changing habits is hard for everybody.
It is difficult. So you also gotta work with people and not try to impose it. But it's tricky because for me, I was like, oh my God, EMF dangers. Yeah. We got to do it yesterday, But for her, it was, okay, well, let me give me some space to actually use the product and get used to it. And after a while, it was very natural. And nowadays, she always turns her phone on airplane mode whenever she's carrying it around. It almost feels weird not to. So that's a win for me and for her and for her health, because it becomes a habit. So that's really what I wish on people that decide to use these products or decide to just hit airplane mode before carrying the phone. That's what I've been advocating for several years. A lot of people don't do it. I see my friends, I see my close friends, my buddies. Some of them follow my work online. All of them have phones in the pocket. So maybe I'll purchase some SYB shielding for them because I'll say, guys, I know you don't follow my advice. So instead, at least use this, Maybe, but it's just to tell you that
it really hurts me, man. I see it because you see it all the time. You see it in TV, you see it in real life.
There we go.
I feel like because when you're carrying it in your pocket, you're actually using it in ways that the manufacturer says not to because it's too close to your body.
Good point.
And so I feel like Hollywood should have be banned from putting that in movies and TV shows the same way that they do with smoking cigarettes. Like, why are you? You see men putting it right in their chest pockets and they're walking around with it all day. It really. Yep. Really grinds me the wrong way. That's one of these things that really grinds me the wrong way.
Me too. So if you want to make sure to avoid a large fraction of the risks associated with EMFs, EMF blocking products can help. But overall, if a product is touching your body, you are in fact being overexposed even by these very permissive guidelines that we have. And in fact, some phones have been found to go more than tenfold the limit. It's maddening, and when you get into it, and that's beyond the scope of this particular presentation, but it's maddening. It's essentially every phone that fails even the regulatory limits that are very high. So that's very frustrating. But I want to move on to just a concluding product here, a third product that I want to address, and that's one that many electrosensitives might be familiar with, and that's the air tube headsets, a type of earbuds that, first, what are they, and how is you have a unique solution at SYB that I never saw anywhere else called HARD that can, I think, replace the air tube. So can you talk about both of these products and how they work and why some people should consider them?
Sure. So let's start with the problem. The problem is that headsets are made of wire, right? And wire is conductive, and you're plugging them into devices that are significant sources of EMF, whether it's your phone, your tablet, your laptop, whatever it is, you're plugging it into a source of EMF. So when you plug your headset into the source of EMF, what I refer to as stray EMF, gets conducted from the device all the way up the headset to your ear canal, which is a very vulnerable part of your head because there's no bone. It's very close to the brain and there's no bone. There's holes in the skull there. So the radiation can get right through. So what air tubes do is they replace the wire with air, right? So whereas wire is carrying electrical signals that get converted into sound in the earbuds, air tubes convert the sound. I'm pointing here. These aren't my earbuds, air tubes, but they have beads on them, and the wire goes to the bead. The sound is converted from that electrical signal in the bead to just sound, and the rest of the headset is just air. So that whole wire is missing from that design, and so it's not conducting that radiation any further up the headset. Now, the trade-off there is that when you're conducting sound over air, it's much lower quality than if you're conducting it as an electrical signal the entire way up to the earbud. And so you get a trade-off in sound quality, which it's worth it. And for a lot of use cases, it doesn't matter, right? I don't care if I'm listening to a podcast on air tubes or, my high-end Sennheisers. Yeah. I don't care if I'm on a call on my air tubes, but listening to music on air tubes or watching a movie on air tubes is definitely a substandard experience from the perspective of the audio quality. So that's where the HARD comes in, the headset anti-radiation device. And that's what I'm using here. I don't know if people can see this little white box here. So this, you plug this into the source, and then you plug your headset into the HARD. And what this does is it filters the stray EMF, what I've been referring to as the stray radio frequencies, off of the line. And then your headset works however you want. So with this technology, you can actually use your headset whatever headset you want. As you can see here, I'm using a very high-end headset, which I like to use at my computer, but I'm still getting the radiation protection of the HARD. Now, what's interesting about this is not only does it allow you to use whatever headset you want, this was actually developed. This wasn't developed as EMF protection. This was developed as audio enhancing technology, right? Because when you filter the stray EMF off of the signal, you're actually cleaning up the sound quality. So not only can you use high-end headsets with it, it'll actually improve the sound quality on whatever headset you're using, because that's actually what it was designed for. The fact that it filtered the EMF off the line was an unintended use case of the technology. So that's why I like the HARD. I use both. I use the headset, the air tubes on my phone. I use the HARD on my computer.
Yeah, I use a HARD, and I find that the audio quality is very good, so it's only improving it. And that's what I found with air tubes is I could not personally find a fit for my ear. So that's I don't know if that's for everyone, but my ear just doesn't fit with most earbuds. I have a very hard time finding the comfortable types that won't always fall off. Somehow I have a weird shape inside my head.
I'll send, because no matter what, like you say, no matter what type of air tube you have, some percentage of customers, they're going to have that problem. Yeah. So we have what we call an over the ear. They wrap around the ear and they go in. Okay. Yeah, so I'll get your address and send you a pair.
That'd be awesome. And then the HARD, I think it's a product that you can kind of set it and forget it. Use your favorite wired headphones or earbuds with it. So I like it. I've been using it for several years now. It's just there. I don't think about it. So I like these solutions that are going to set it and forget it. Doesn't add more stress to your life. And I also usually use one also on my phone. So I have a second one that I use on my phone. So just in case, it's just an extra layer of protection. But have you, among your clientele, do you have electrosensitive individuals that tell you that this makes a difference if they are on a call, or that they can kind of feel this dirty electricity going up the wire? Do you have these testimonials sometimes? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, we have them on our site. We have reviews on the products, but we also get a lot of people who just email in and thank us for providing solutions like this. That said, there's some people who are electrically sensitive that, EMF protection, they're not going to see that improvement right away just from using a specific product. What I find most interesting, it's very nice when we hear that we've helped someone who is electrically sensitive address some of their symptoms. But what I find most rewarding is actually hearing from people who didn't even realize they were electrically sensitive until they started using protection. And so one example that happens actually a surprising amount are people who start using the phone pouches and then they have leg pains that go away. And they didn't even realize that was, and I'm using this example particularly because it shocked me. Your cell phone was causing leg pain. I hadn't read science on that, or anything like that. So there was this whole symptom that I didn't know about that multiple customers have been emailing in saying that has gone away since I've started using the pouch. And, it is very fulfilling to be able to be providing solutions that help people in that way.
Yeah, and you might consider also, if you're listening to this and say, well, I don't have leg pain, I don't particularly, worry about my fertility, my testosterone is very good, so I still have that phone in the pocket. Well, there are also anecdotes that I heard from colleagues where someone took a scan of their bone mass and saw a reduction on one side where they held the phone. And there are indications that potentially phones could interfere with collagen production, with bone production. In reality, we don't have to wait for the science. Imagine if you have one weaker hip just out of 20, 30 years of carrying your phone. Going into your older days, starting at 50s, 60s, 70s, hip fracture is a big problem. In fact, some people break a hip, go to the hospital, never come back. This is, so even if you decide, I'm not going to use the front pocket, it's going to be the back. Well, you still have bones there. So if you care about your body at all, I think that taking precautions is very, very important. Art, thank you so much. I want to give you a minute or so to talk about your company, also the book that you co-authored with your late father, and anything else that you've got coming down the line.
Thank you. Well, so the company is Shield Your Body. It's at shieldyourbody.com. It's 10 years old, and we make a catalog of laboratory-tested EMF protection products. A lot of ones that make it safer to carry your phone, like the Pouch Deluxe, the Sling Bag, the Backpack. That is a use case that I care very deeply about, which is why I'm so focused on creating a set of solutions there so people can pick the one that's easiest for them to use in their lifestyle. But also, as we talked about, headsets, bed canopies, apparel, and always looking to add more. And we offer fast, affordable shipping throughout the United States, Canada, as well as Europe. No import duties. And lots of educational information materials as well, articles, ebooks, just tons of it. So that's at shieldyourbody.com. The book that you mentioned is Overpowered. That's also 10 years old. Not a coincidence, because it was in the course of writing that with my father, Dr. Martin Blank, that I came up with the idea for what became Shield Your Body. And that is still available. It's still in print, available on Amazon. It's a fantastic, if I don't say so myself, a fantastic read, very deeply researched, very accessibly written. And then finally, I'd like to mention my podcast, the Healthier Tech Podcast, which you can learn more about on all podcasting platforms, as well as the website healthiertech.co, where we explore lots of information and content around ways of living healthier alongside modern technology. Some of that is EMF, but a lot of it gets into other areas such as human connectivity, digital wellness, digital detox, and all those sorts of issues. And so that's at healthiertech.co.
Thank you so much, R, again, for being part of this summit. You are a very important voice in the EMF space, and I find that you have commentary and expertise that is always reasonable, down to earth, and that's my style, going back to the essentials for people, helping them understand these dangers, and then helping them with solutions that actually work and that are simple. So thank you for all you do. Thank you as well, Nick. It's always a pleasure chatting with you. I hope that you liked this presentation and that it brought you a lot of value. The takeaways for me are: it's too risky to try to save money on EMF blocking products by choosing some low-priced random brand on Amazon or any other online shop for that matter. Some products are very poorly designed and can do more harm than good, both for people who are electrosensitive and who will feel worse when using those so-called EMF protection devices that are really doing the opposite, but also for everyday people who just want to minimize the risks associated with EMFs. There are many good brands out there, but the one brand that I've endorsed professionally is Shield Your Body because I know I can trust these products. Again, doesn't mean this is the only brand that is valid, but it is one brand that I know for sure works and that you can also trust. If you shop for EMF blocking products, make sure that the manufacturer is able to provide you with test reports from an actual RF lab that is testing these products to make sure they actually work the way that they are supposed to work. If the manufacturer cannot provide that, run away from this company. If you love this presentation, you want to own all of the recordings from EMF Hazards 2024, along with the transcripts, the MP3s, and our must-have bonus package from our speakers, our sponsors, just click the button on this page. And remember that when the offer is gone, it's gone. It's available for a very limited time, after which you won't be able to purchase the EMF pack anymore. So get it before it's too late. All right, I'll see you in the next presentation. Thanks for watching.